Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome to the bonus show. Fantastic bonus show going on here. This may be the best bonus show ever. There's an interesting story coming to us from Sweden about how Swedish students are testing higher in English, testing better, higher, better, whatever, in English than in Swedish. And I have to say, when I was in Sweden, English was everywhere, at least among everyone under 35, I would say, seemed pretty proficient. And I had no trouble communicating with anyone. I think there were, of course, I was in Stockholm the vast majority of the time, and it may be more prevalent there. I think I remember talking to a couple people who were from outside of Stockholm, and their English was not quite as good. But yeah, I just found this interesting. At what point is English going to become the primary language in Sweden, and when will Swedish be optional?
Yeah, it kind of creeps in, right? Because you have there's many countries around the world where everybody learns English from elementary school. So then they start getting good at English. And then you say, well, there's actually a lot of really good texts that we could be studying from that, since everybody's learning English, by the time we get to high school, we could actually read from or study from the original English texts rather than having translations because, our English is really, really good. So then as that starts to creep in, it goes further. They say, what if we actually have some of the subjects just taught in English? And then you've got American culture and media, and it starts to kind of creep in. I don't know exactly if that is or when it's going to happen in Sweden, but I can see how it's almost like a cultural shift that happens where, and we could say this about in Germany as well, because young, students in Germany now from a young age also are learning English. Israel, a lot of Israelis are also, if you go to school in Israel, you're very often learning English and you have a high proficiency at it. And there's a reason to learn it, right? I mean, it is one of the more common languages around the world that's used particularly for business and in academia. I don't know if it's really going to become kind of like the default language. It's kind of an interesting question, but I can see how it can slowly creep in, just starting with, hey, let's start kids on English pretty early. It's a good skill to have.
Yeah, and I imagine the biggest speed bump would be preservation of culture. I mean, right? Everything before that, all the books, the songs, the street names, the town names, the movies, I mean, everything is all, of course, in Swedish. And so that does have to be preserved, and you do still need people who can read, write, and understand that. So maybe it will never happen. Maybe it will just be option, or just a combined language situation. But I don't know. Sweden, of course, is a bit bigger than, let's say, Iceland, where everyone also learns English. And I feel like there have got to be some countries, maybe not those two, but some countries in the world where the language is just going to disappear. But I don't know. It certainly is important to preserve it as well. So what's up with this fruitarian?
All right. So I know this person who, for like a year or so on Facebook, they've been talking about how they're fruitarians, which is a diet that I guess is mostly fruit, but maybe it includes some nuts. Is that, what else does it include, Lewis? Fruit, some vegetables, and then you think that there's maybe some nuts involved?
I'm going to look it up right now.
All right.
Fruitarianism. Okay, it involves a practice of following a diet that includes fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. No animal products, no grains. That's pretty much it.
Okay, well, so I was just kind of thinking, I always kind of thought to myself, are you really getting all the nutrients you need? Also, is it mentally healthy to have such a limited diet? And I always had questions about it. And the other day, this person posts a picture to Facebook, and they're sitting at a table in a Whole Foods with 10 pears on their plate in front of them saying, I don't know why everybody at this Whole Foods is looking at me, but I'm just having my lunch. And they literally had a plate of 10 pears, okay? And then the funniest aspect of this was that right below that, you know how on Facebook you can comment on people's pictures, someone said, Hey, I'm just wondering, I've been doing the fruitarian lifestyle for 8 months and I've gained a ton of weight and am constantly completely broken out in pimples all over my body. Have any of you guys experienced this with the fruitarian diet? I feel great though. And when I saw that, I don't know for sure that it has to do with this fruitarian diet, but when I see a plate with 10 pears on it, this does not seem like that reasonable of a diet lifestyle, does it?
Not at all. And I would be very worried about that person who gained tons of weight and broke out in pimples all over. I think diets like this can be really dangerous. If it can work, if it does work, you really need to educate yourself about it. You need to know everything about it and what you need to consume to stay alive. Because if you don't really know anything about it and you just read a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, and you decide to just eat tons of fruit and maybe you start skipping out on the nuts and seeds, you're going to have some serious problems.
I also wonder too, Lewis, it seems there's always another side. So lately, the being off of gluten thing is becoming a really big thing. And people say, it's not about whether you have celiac disease. There's just generally over inclusion of gluten in people's diets, and you could just get off of it and you'll feel better. But at the same time, there are other studies which say actually there may be, counter to what the anti-gluten people say, positive effects to having gluten. And those are completely being discounted. It seems like there's always two sides. And again, I always just come back to, it seems if your diet is pretty balanced, short of an actual allergy to something, which you should avoid, you're going to be in relatively good shape. Now, this is separate from specific processing that puts in chemicals or artificial things. I'm just saying, broadly speaking, if you have a balanced diet of food that is as least processed as possible, you're going to be in pretty good shape in general.
Yeah. And it seems like overall the definition of a fruitarian is pretty ambiguous. I mean, a lot of people, I guess, also include beans, peas, legumes, honey, olive oil, that type of thing. So it's kind of all over the place. I don't think it's really been honed in on yet what a fruitarian is. But yeah, certainly is not for me. I don't know. Although I admit that in our country, especially eating meat may not be the healthiest thing, just because of the conditions of slaughterhouses and the way these animals are raised. It's very hard to get your hands on good, clean meat. But to deprive yourself of what this world has to offer in terms of food, I don't know. Just doesn't seem like a good way to live to me. But that's me. I'm a traveler, and imagine being a fruitarian and trying to travel to a country like, I don't know, like Turkey, when I was in Turkey. I mean, it would be extremely difficult.
You mean you wouldn't really want to have 14 apples for lunch, Lewis?
Not something I'm interested in. No. Also, just all the walking I was doing with like a 50-pound backpack for miles up and down hills. I mean, if I were just eating apples, I would have dropped dead. I'm telling you, I would have dropped dead. Sorry. So let's play this voicemail. This is an interesting one, and one that we haven't really addressed, have we?
No, I don't think so. Let's take a listen to it.
David Packman, Lewis. This is Jeff. I'm a member. I love the show. A good idea for a bonus show would be, what gets you irate? You all seem very calm, cool, and collected. Never see you lose your shit on the show, and I mean, what? Maybe you could discuss something that would really get somebody irate, aggravated, pounding fists on the table, or recall a time that when you did, because I've been watching the show for years. You guys seem very nonchalant.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, okay, everybody's pretty casual here. I don't know. Certainly, incredible stupidity and stubbornness upsets me. Whether I get irate, I mean, a lot of the things that start to make me mad, then just make me sad because I end up like feeling bad for someone or something like that. There was one incident where I've told the story before where when I was working as a sales rep for a high-speed internet company inside of retail stores, and I was placed at a Circuit City. And one of the Circuit City employees made just like horrible anti-Semitic comments about some customers that were in the store in front of me. And then when I called him out on it, he responded that he shouldn't have made the comments in front of me, as opposed to the comments are wrong and incredibly discriminatory. I was incredibly angry, and it was the closest I felt in my adult life. Like I might get into like a physical fight where I might be moved to like push, shove, or punch the guy. I didn't. But yeah, I mean, that's what I can think of right now.
Yeah, for me, I would say things like that used to get to me, used to make me pretty angry. Now, a lot of the time, I just ignore it because I don't know, it still annoys me, but I just think to myself, instead of, oh, I need to set this person straight, I think to myself, this person's hopeless, they're lost, they're a complete idiot, completely ignorant. I'm just not even going to bother. But other things that get me irate, I'm not really sure. I'm having a hard time thinking of something. When people call me a liar, that really gets me going.
Why is that? That's interesting. What about being called a liar do you find particularly offensive?
It's just that I'm not. And when someone tells me I am, it's like taking a stab at me on the deepest level. You know what I mean?
What's something recently that you were accused of lying of?
I can't remember. It's been a long time, but I just remember that being something that got me irate. Still not really thinking of much. I don't know. It's the older I get, the more calm and laid back I get. And I'm already pretty calm and laid back. So I can only imagine that in 20 years, it would be very difficult to anger me.
Well, that's kind of like your dad, at least his public face, where he's just an incredibly calm and laid back guy. Although you say that behind the scenes, sometimes he gets irate too.
He gets irate more easily than I do, but he's the same way in that the older he gets, the more laid back he gets. But my dad has a tendency to fly off the handle and have a really bad temper, and his brother calls it the Motomedy temper, which I have. I definitely have. It's happened, but it doesn't happen much anymore. But I'm going to try. I have to think about this. I'm going to dwell on this for a while and try and pin down. Oh, you know what? Here's one. Here's one that gets me irate. I'm a big music fan. Obviously, I'm a musician myself.
Oh, here we go. I think I know where we're going.
And when I talk to people who listen to what I call mindless, simple music, of course, most of this being just mainstream music, you know, your Toby Keith, your Molly Cyrus, that type of thing.
And of course, by Molly Cyrus, you're talking about Miley Cyrus.
Miley, whatever her name is. I don't really care. So that shows you how much I follow popular culture.
Oh, man.
Miley. Yeah, I guess it is Miley. And then they hear something that either I like or I'm involved in, you know, something heavy, something not quite mainstream, something obviously metal. And they say something along the lines of, that's not music. This is complete crap. Things like that. Even though I know the vast majority of these people aren't actually listening to it, as soon as they hear a blast beat or a growl, they immediately check out, because I used to do that too. Originally, I hated that, and I would immediately tune it out and not actually listen. But that still gets me going for some reason.
Huh.
And I still find myself getting very angry and saying, yeah, all you like is this formulaic crap that's designed to sell, and you're buying it up like a sucker. And that's something that gets me irate for sure.
All right. Wow, that's a very good story. Send us email about what gets you irate. Very good one. Good question.
All right. And before I fucking punch my monitor here, thinking about it, we'll end the bonus show.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.